The clerk said it as a joke. "You've both been stood up 3 times. Why don't you just marry each other?" The man across the hallway looked at me with the same ruined pride in his eyes. I still had my wedding documents in one hand and a positive pregnancy test hidden in my purse. 10 seconds passed. Then we both said, "Fine." 20 minutes later, I had a husband, and my ex was calling non-stop, demanding to know why I had stopped waiting. My name is Nora Ellis, and that morning, I walked into the county courthouse believing I was finally going to become Mrs. Ethan Ward. By 4 in the afternoon, I was sitting on a hard plastic chair under a flickering fluorescent light, staring at the third empty chair Ethan had left beside me. The first time he failed to show up, his father had chest pains. I forgave him before he even finished apologizing. The second time, a business emergency pulled him out of state. I cried in the bathroom, fixed my makeup, and told everyone it was fine. Love, I told myself, meant being patient. Love meant understanding pressure. Love meant not making a man feel worse when he was already carrying the world. The third time, his text arrived 2 minutes after our appointment was supposed to start. "Big meeting ran over. You know how it is. I'll make it up to you, babe." I read that message until the words stopped looking like language. Across from me, a man in a charcoal coat stood near the windows with his phone pressed to his ear. His jaw was tight. His hair was a little messy, like he had run his hand through it too many times. I heard only pieces of his conversation. "No, Lena. Not again. You promised." "My mother waited all morning." Then he hung up and laughed once without humor. The clerk, a woman named Darlene with silver glasses and a face that had probably seen every kind of romantic disaster, looked at both of us. She glanced at the clock, then at my unused documents, then at his. "Honey," she said to me, "if a man wants to marry you, he finds the building." I should have stood up. I should have gone home. I should have called my best friend and cried in the parking lot like a normal person. But there was something heavy in my purse. A folded lab report. 6 weeks pregnant. I had planned to tell Ethan after we signed. I had imagined his face softening, his arms around me, his voice saying, "Now we're really a family." I had built a whole future on a man who could not even arrive before closing time. That is the cruel thing about waiting too long. At some point, you stop waiting for the person. You start waiting for your own suffering to make sense. 3 years with Ethan. 2 canceled license appointments. 1 house deposit I helped pay. Dozens of excuses. Hundreds of small humiliations. I had given so much that leaving felt like admitting I had wasted my life. But staying would have wasted more. Darlene gathered her keys and nodded toward the man by the window. "He got left too," she said. "Third time, same as you. Maybe you two should just marry each other and call it a day." The hallway went quiet. The man turned. For 10 seconds we just stared at each other. He had the look of someone standing at the edge of his own pride, deciding whether to jump. Then he said, "I'm Caleb Hart, 32. I own a logistics software firm. No criminal record. 1 mother in hospice care. 1 fiancé who apparently prefers her yoga instructor." I blinked. "My name is Nora Ellis, 30. Senior strategist at a branding agency. No criminal record. 1 cat. 1 mortgage application. 1 fiancé who apparently prefers meetings to marriage." His mouth twitched. Darlene dropped her keys. "I was kidding," she said. "I'm not," Caleb said. "I should have been scared. Maybe I was. But beneath the fear was something hotter. Not revenge exactly. More like a door opening inside a room I had been trapped in for years. "Do you understand this is legal?" Darlene asked. "Yes," Caleb said. "Do you?" she asked me. I looked down at Ethan's text again. "You know how it is." Yes, I knew how it was. I knew how it felt to be the woman who understood everything and received nothing. I knew how it felt to explain a man's absence to people who were secretly glad they had something to gossip about. I knew how it felt to make myself smaller so his irresponsibility looked less cruel. I stood up. "Yes," I said. "I understand. Marriage is supposed to be about love. But it is also a signature, a witness, a hospital contact, a person who stands beside you when the world asks who has the right to be there." Ethan had wanted the benefits of being my future husband without the weight of becoming one. Caleb, a stranger, understood the weight before he even knew my middle name. We filled out the forms in silence. Darlene kept shaking her head as she stamped each page. The photographer looked like he wanted to ask questions but thought better of it. Caleb stood beside me for the license photo, leaving a polite space between us. We looked like two people waiting for bad news, not newlyweds. Just before the flash, he murmured, "Last chance." I looked straight at the camera. No more waiting. The flash went off. 20 minutes later, Darlene handed us 2 copies of the certificate. "Congratulations," she said, though her voice sounded more like a warning. "Try not to ruin each other's lives before dinner." Caleb took 1 copy. I took the other. My phone started ringing before we reached the courthouse steps. "Ethan." I let it ring. Then came the text. "Where are you?" "Nora, answer me." "I'm on my way now." "Don't be dramatic." Caleb glanced at the screen. "You should answer once. Clean breaks are easier when the other person hears the door close." I answered. Ethan's voice came through fast and annoyed. "Finally. I'm pulling up in 10. We can still get dinner and talk this out. The office is closed. So we'll reschedule." "No," I said. "I got married." Silence. Then he laughed. "Nora, that's not funny." "I'm not trying to be funny." "Nora." I looked at the certificate in my hand. My name beside Caleb Hart's. Official seal. Real ink. A decision I could not soften for Ethan's comfort. "I was going to tell you today," I said. "I'm pregnant." 6 weeks. The silence changed. It grew sharp. "You're pregnant with my child and you married someone else? You didn't come." "I had a meeting." "You always have a meeting." His voice rose. "You wait right there." "I'm coming." "No. You made me wait 3 times." "I'm done." I hung up and turned off my phone. For a moment the whole world tilted. The courthouse, the streetlights, the evening traffic, Caleb standing beside me with our marriage certificate folded in his hand. I had just married a man I met less than an hour ago. I was carrying another man's child. My mother was going to think I had lost my mind. My boss would hear rumors by morning. Caleb cleared his throat. "My place is nearby. Guest room, lock on the door. You can stay until you decide what to do. Why are you being kind?" He looked toward the darkening street. "My mother spent all morning asking if I was married yet. She has maybe a month left. I was going to lie to make her happy. You made the lie legal. It was not romantic. That was why I trusted it." His apartment was neat, almost too neat, the kind of place owned by someone who slept there but did not live there. He gave me the bedroom and took the couch without making a speech. Before closing the door, he placed a bottle of water on the nightstand. "I won't ask about the baby tonight," he said. "You look like you've been asked enough." That simple mercy broke me. I sat on the edge of a stranger's bed and cried with my hand pressed to my stomach. Not because I regretted marrying Caleb. Not exactly. I cried because the man I had loved for 3 years had made me feel foolish for needing him, while a stranger understood that I needed quiet. The next morning, Ethan was waiting outside my office. He looked terrible, which once would have made me soften. His shirt was wrinkled. His eyes were red. He held a bouquet from the convenience store in the lobby, the sticker still on the plastic. "Nora," he said, reaching for me. "Baby, we need to talk." I stepped back. "Don't call me that." His gaze dropped to my hand. No ring. I had not even had time to buy one, but somehow that made him angrier. "Who is he?" "My husband." He flinched like I slapped him. "This is insane. You did this to punish me." "I did this because you did not come. I was with a client." I pulled out my phone and showed him the photo my friend Mara had sent me that morning. Ethan at a wine bar, his hand on the lower back of his 22-year-old assistant, June. The timestamp was yesterday, 1 hour before our courthouse appointment. His face went pale. It wasn't what it looked like. It never is. He lowered his voice. "You're pregnant. That baby is mine." "I know. You can't let another man raise my child." That sentence did something to me. It was not love. It was ownership. "You had the chance to become a husband yesterday. I'll marry you now." "No." His face hardened. "Then get rid of it." The words landed so quietly that for a second I thought I had imagined them. "What did you say?" "If you're not coming back to me, Then don't use my child to play house with some stranger. The last thread snapped. I looked at him and saw, not the man I had loved, but the man I had been excusing. 3 years of apologies, flowers, promises, missed dinners, late-night lies. I had called it complicated because calling it cruel would have forced me to leave. You disgust me, I said. He grabbed my wrist. Before I could pull away, a hand closed over his. Let her go. Caleb stood beside us in a navy suit, calm as winter. Ethan sneered. And you are her husband. The words should have sounded fake. They didn't. Ethan looked him up and down. You know she's pregnant with my kid? I know. And you still married her? Caleb's face did not change. Apparently I have better attendance. For the first time all morning I almost laughed. Ethan stepped closer. This isn't over. Caleb looked at his hand still on my wrist. It is unless you want the police involved. Ethan let go. After he walked away, my knees weakened. Caleb caught my elbow but did not hold me longer than necessary. You followed me? I had a meeting nearby. Darlene called me. The clerk. She said your ex looked like the type who arrives late and angry. I should have been embarrassed. Instead, I felt protected in a way I did not know I had been missing. That afternoon, Caleb took me to meet his mother. Her name was Evelyn Hart, and she was smaller than I expected, propped against white pillows in a private hospice room with sunlight on her hands. Sickness had thinned her, but her eyes were bright. So this is Nora, she whispered. I stepped forward with flowers I had bought on the way. Hello, Mrs. Hart. She frowned. None of that. If you married my son, you call me Mom. Caleb looked away, and I saw the pain move through him before he hid it. Evelyn took my hand. He looks less lonely beside you. I had no answer. She spoke to me like I was not a lie, like I was a blessing. Like the paper we signed yesterday had opened a door into a family I had not earned but somehow had entered. On the way home I said, she loves you very much. Caleb kept his eyes on the road. She is the only person who always did. That was the first time I understood him. Not as the handsome stranger who married me in a courthouse, but as a man trying to give his dying mother peace while his own heart was breaking. We were both using each other. But maybe use and care are not always opposites. Maybe sometimes people begin with a bargain because they are too wounded to admit they need comfort. A week later, Evelyn passed away. At her small funeral, I stood beside Caleb as his wife. I held his arm when people offered condolences. I accepted hugs from relatives who believed we had been in love for months. It should have felt dishonest. Instead, it felt solemn. I was there because he needed someone there. That night, he gave me a small velvet box. My mother wanted you to have this. Inside was a thin gold bracelet, old and delicate. I can't take this. She wrote your name on the envelope. There was a letter too. Nora, thank you for arriving in time. My son pretends not to need people. Please do not believe him. If your marriage began quickly, let your kindness grow slowly. Fast beginnings are not always false. Sometimes they are simply late. I cried over a woman I had known for 6 days. The next morning, my own life collapsed. My boss called me into the conference room. Around the table sat 2 senior partners, legal counsel, and Martin Cole, my coworker, wearing a face so carefully concerned that I knew he had practiced it. Our biggest pitch of the year, the Eastbridge campaign, had appeared in a competitor's presentation almost word for word. Strategy, tagline, visual direction, rollout calendar. Everything. You were the lead strategist, my boss said. You had full access. You think I leaked it? We are investigating. Martin sighed. Nora, if you needed money because of everything happening in your personal life, maybe you made a bad choice under stress. I stared at him. There it was. The setup. Pregnant. Scandalous courthouse marriage. Ex-fiancé drama. Perfect unstable woman. Perfect scapegoat. I was placed on leave before lunch. By the time I reached the sidewalk, I could barely breathe. My career, the one thing I had built without Ethan, was being taken from me too. I called Caleb because I had no one else who would not begin with, "What did you do?" He answered on the second ring. What happened? I've been suspended. Where are you? Outside the office. I'm coming. He did not ask if I was guilty. That mattered more than I wanted it to. In his car, I told him everything. The leaked campaign. Martin's accusation. The competitor. Ethan's company, which had been trying to land the same Eastbridge account through a partnership. Caleb listened, then said, "You didn't leak it. You don't know that." "I know enough." "How?" "If you wanted money, you would not choose the dumbest crime available." I laughed once, then started crying. At the hospital that evening, the doctor said the cramping was stress-related and dangerous for the pregnancy. Threatened miscarriage. Bed rest. Observation. No emotional shocks, as if emotional shocks could be rescheduled like dentist appointments. Caleb handled the paperwork. He spoke to nurses, called Mara, brought soup I could barely eat. He placed my phone out of reach when Ethan started calling from blocked numbers. "Why are you doing all this?" I asked. He sat beside the bed, sleeves rolled up, looking exhausted. "Because you are my wife. We both know how this started." "Yes," he said. "And I know how I'm choosing to continue." Trust does not always grow from time. Sometimes it grows from crisis. Ethan had 3 years and still treated me like an inconvenience. Caleb had days, and somehow he knew the first rule of care. Believe the person beside you before the world finishes accusing them. Mara found the first clue. Security footage showed Martin entering my office during lunch and plugging a flash drive into my computer. Caleb found the second. Martin's closest friend from business school was a director at the competing agency. Then came the third clue, the ugliest one. Ethan had transferred money to a consulting account linked to Martin's wife. Why would Martin risk everything? I asked. Mara's voice was grim. His daughter needs surgery. He's drowning in bills. I closed my eyes. Pity and anger twisted together inside me. Caleb said, "Desperation explains choices. It doesn't erase victims." He was right. 3 days later, Caleb hosted a charity networking dinner through his company. Eastbridge executives were invited. So were several agency leaders, including Martin. Ethan came too, under the impression Caleb wanted to discuss a possible logistics partnership. The trap was simple. Make desperate men think they were safe enough to talk. I wore the gold bracelet Evelyn had left me. My hand shook as Caleb adjusted the clasp. "You don't have to do this," he said. "Yes, I do." Martin arrived first. When he saw me beside Caleb, his smile cracked. "Nora, I didn't know you'd be here. I'm with my husband." Caleb extended his hand. "Caleb Hart." Martin recognized the name. His face changed. Caleb's company was bigger than he expected, connected to more people than he knew. Halfway through dinner, I asked Martin to step onto the terrace. The city glittered below us. He looked nervous, sweating despite the cold. "Ethan is planning to leave you with the blame," I said. He swallowed. "I don't know what you mean. He wired money offshore yesterday. He's liquidating assets. When the investigation tightens, he'll disappear and you'll be the only one left holding the flash drive." Martin's face went gray. I did not actually know all of that. Caleb had found enough to guess. The rest was pressure. "He said he'd protect me," Martin whispered. "Ethan doesn't protect people. He uses them until they become evidence." That broke him. By midnight, Martin was sitting in Caleb's office with his head in his hands, handing over emails, payment receipts, call logs, and the original file transfer. Ethan had paid him to steal my campaign, leak it, frame me, and then steer the Eastbridge client toward Ethan's failing company. Why keep evidence? I asked. Martin looked ashamed. "Insurance." The next morning, Martin confessed to my company. By afternoon, my boss called me in. His face was pale with embarrassment. "Nora, we were wrong." I said nothing. "You are reinstated. The Eastbridge account is yours again. Martin has been terminated, and the matter is being referred to the police. Ethan, also under investigation. For 3 years I had wanted Ethan to choose me. Now I watched him choose fraud, betrayal, and cowardice, and I finally understood how lucky I was that he never arrived at that courthouse. When Ethan was arrested 2 weeks later, he called me from a number I did not recognize. "Nora, please. I made mistakes." "No," I said. "You made plans. I loved you. You loved having someone who waited." He was silent. Then he said, "What about the baby?" I placed my hand over my stomach. "The baby will know the truth when the time comes." "And him?" Caleb, you're really staying with him. I looked across the room. Caleb was in the kitchen, badly burning toast because he still insisted he could cook breakfast. He turned, caught me watching, and gave me a small embarrassed smile. Yes, I said. I'm staying. That night, I told Caleb I wanted to keep the baby. He went very still. You're sure? I'm sure. And us. I took a long breath. I don't want a marriage made only of paper and panic. Neither do I. I don't want pity. You don't have it. I don't want you staying because of your mother's letter. He walked closer slowly like I might run. At first, I married you because I was angry and desperate. Then I stayed because my mother needed peace. But now, he stopped in front of me. Now I want a life with you. Quiet. Honest. Maybe messy. But real. My throat tightened. I'm pregnant with another man's child. I know. That doesn't scare you? It scares me, he said. But losing the chance to love you scares me more. I started crying. Not the broken crying from the courthouse. Not the frightened crying from the hospital. This was different. This was grief leaving space for something else. Then let's try, I whispered. He smiled. A real smile. Months later, we had a small ceremony in Evelyn's garden. Not legal, because that part had already happened in the strangest courthouse appointment of my life. This one was just for us. Darlene came and cried harder than anyone. Mara gave a speech that included the words reckless, miracle, and finally good taste. Caleb put a ring on my finger with hands that trembled. This time no one was late. I gave birth to my daughter in spring. Caleb was the one holding my hand. Caleb was the one counting breaths. Caleb was the one who cried when she opened her eyes. On her birth certificate, I left the father line as the law required after the court process finished, but in life, fatherhood was not a line on paper. It was 3 a.m. feedings. It was tiny socks folded in pairs. It was walking the hallway with a crying baby against his chest, whispering stories about the grandmother she never got to meet. Ethan sent one letter from prison. I did not open it. Some endings do not need one last conversation. Sometimes silence is the cleanest signature. People still ask if I regret marrying a stranger. I tell them the truth. I regret waiting 3 years for a man who taught me to confuse absence with ambition. I regret calling humiliation patience. I regret believing that time invested meant love earned. But Caleb? No. He was not the mistake. The mistake was thinking the man who kept me waiting was the only one who could choose me. So if you have ever sat in a hallway, holding documents for a future someone else keeps postponing, if you have ever made excuses for a person who always arrives after your dignity has already left, if you have ever wondered whether walking away means everything you endured was wasted, hear me. 1 missed promise can be forgiven. 2 can be explained. But by the 3rd empty chair, the answer is already sitting in front of you. And sometimes the life you were waiting for does not arrive late. Sometimes it is the stranger across the hallway, looking just as broken as you, brave enough to say, "Fine. Let's begin." Disclaimer. This video is created for the sole purpose of entertainment. All situations, characters, and stories in this video are fictional and are built entirely using artificial intelligence technology. We hope you have a relaxing time.